Hey guys, this is Ryan,
This is Rob.
and you're listening or watching now Frontier.
So today we've got another interview, which is really exciting. It's really excited to have with us not only a big name in the front ensemble world, but also is a huge name in the music industry. Maybe you remember his Vic Firth mallets. Make sure you cherish them, at least the few remaining pairs, as they are discontinued. He's worked with some top tier groups such as Blue Devils, Santa Clara, Madison Scouts, Stryke Percussion, and RCC, just to name a few. He's been a part of the Mason Entertainment Group as a part of working for the production of Blast and Mix. He's taught music of all ages, all over the globe. Currently, he is a faculty member at the New Mexico State University. With us today is Jeff Lee. Welcome, Jeff. We're so glad to have you with us today. Thanks for
Hey.
Jeff, do you have what can you tell us about what you're doing right now at the university?
Well, I run a major recital concert venue, which is actually super hip because, you just mentioned all that stuff. I have real world experience and connections, but to be able to bring that back to the students, it's super hip. And like, we had a class the other day via Zoom, and I had a student say, "Aren't you just a guy who moves the music stands on stage?" I'm like, "Oh, buddy, I have a Tony and an Emmy, both of which my ex-girlfriend threw in the garbage, and I was a voting member on the Grammys. It's like, and so but it's cool too to do that sort of work now, where it's trying to give students real world experience, and it's
your job, working doing music, you've had to travel quite a bit. What and probably for some pretty big events, what are some really interesting places that you've been to, and like some of the most interesting things you've had to travel or move for work?
Well, I moved to Bloomington, Indiana. That was from San Francisco. That was, for me, that was awesome, man. First day we moved there, it was 18 below zero, and I ran out in my underwear and my t-shirt. I was like, "This is awesome," But I've worked in Japan 59 times, I think, on different things. Worked in London, I all over the world, and people are people, and education is education, and you can get, and I've also really enjoyed, working with middle school bands.
Yeah.
And, you can, you can teach anyone to do anything at any time in any language. Music is the language.
That's really cool. So what you've worked with a ton of different front ensembles, and really some like really truly successful front ensembles. I'm gonna have to you're gonna have to pick a favorite. Like, what was your favorite group, year, ensemble, and like what made them stand out to you? Why,
I don't have, I 2000 Blue Devils for me, and that makes me sound like an old guy, but I had so much stinking talent in that group. And there were so many things that went wrong the week of finals. They had nothing to do with the front ensemble or the pit. It doesn't have to be a foo-foo term, but there were so many things that happened with, there was a bass drummer that got caught smoking pot by the police, and we spent the entire day of finals trying to rewrite the show because we were missing a bass drummer, and then he showed up on the field at finals. It played, and me and Scott Johnson are going, "What just happened?" It was, I loved 2000. I loved all the groups. 1993 was my first year actually full time with the Blue Devils, and I had a small group. I had 7 people in the front ensemble, and we made it work. Well, we had 8, and I had to throw one out because she decided to go to a concert instead of showing up to rehearsals, and it was like, okay.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And then the next year, 94, I had more people than I could take auditioning because we did a really good job in 93. So, that's on the performers, and some of that's on me, and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But I'm a lucky boy. I've had the experience of having some great people. And I think as an educator also, you have to learn how to explain things to people and reach every student, because not everyone understands things the same way. So if you just throw out the same terms to all the students, they don't necessarily all get it. I mean, something I wanted to talk about was one of my best students in the world was this guy Josh at Clovis West High School in California, and we were the first WGI percussion ensemble that won indoor drumline. Josh had cerebral palsy, and I figured out how to rewrite his part so he could play in time.
Wow.
And it was just figuring out, how his body reacted, because he was really smart, but his body was always, depending upon the tempo of the music, his body would be like a count and a half behind. Like he couldn't get his body to react at the right time, and he would get so frustrated. I was like, I'm just going to write him a different part, and it was the same part. I just changed the timing of it, and all of a sudden, bam, and we win the state championship. And it's things like that in music that are so beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's super cool. That you gotta love being able to like cater your education, cater the parts so that really everybody can participate. Because that's not something you can do in football or basketball. Like like a disability would be game ending for a lot of people. So
right.
That's a huge thing, especially in the front ensemble. You see a lot of that happen compared to, I think, the rest of the marching bands.
Well, and what I hate is, I've written a lot of books for a lot of different schools and a lot of different programs around the world, but I always try to tailor the parts to the individuals that are in the ensemble, because when you just send out a stock book, there's an education side to that as well. Like, for instance, let's go back to Josh. Josh, he was playing suspended cymbal, concert bass drum, wind chimes. He even played crotales. It's some of the loudest instruments in the front ensemble that are scary at times. But but I didn't overwhelm him with stuff. But you also look for opportunity, and with him, it was a huge opportunity. But I really, if someone's going to write a book, I mean, you can send it out to a company, whether it be Roll Off or Box 5 or whatever, or Box 6, or there's two. Well, Box 6 is a media company, I guess. Box 5, you can send stuff out, but you can write the same music at like 4 or 5 different grade levels. It can be grade level 3, grade level 4, grade level 5, grade level 6. I would prefer to tailor the material to the individuals in my ensemble. And whether that's in a recording studio, hey, or if that's, on the football field, reach people where they're at.
Yeah.
That's something I think that not enough people think about when they're writing, is that we're essentially just writing the textbook for that ensemble. And because you took me back to one of the first groups I had. I had a student that played bass drum, gong, and had autism.
Yep.
So any given day it was something different. But by the time, and his first year, we just gave him just enough to keep him busy but not overwhelm him. And by the time he graduated, I was lucky enough to be there for 4 years. Like just how much he had grown as a musician was incredible, but he had taken that and grown as a human being too. Yeah, I think that's something that not enough people think about when they're writing. And layering parts, like you were talking about, in different levels is something that is super easy to do and doesn't ruin the musicality of what we're trying to create as designers. And if anything, it just enhances it because it's personal to those kids.
Yeah, Ryan, I can't tell you how many times I will write what I want to write, and then I will rewrite it to tailor it,
Yes.
And make it the right thing for the right situation.
So you've kind of talked about it a couple of times. You've taught across all these different grade levels and different levels from middle school band all the way up to professional. What are some of the skills that you find kind of cross over those different generations, and what are some things that are kind of developmental across those?
Well, I think teaching people the ability to listen, maybe not be offended, not feel entitled.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it really has to do with being a good citizen and not being a jerk. At the same time, too, there are, as Rob knows from, being in the Madison Scouts, it's like all you got to do is turn your wrist this way, and all of a sudden now you're playing an octave because you just jumped an octave on the vibes. And yeah, naturally your mallets you're going to be off. You'll be playing a seventh, not an octave. It's sometimes it's really the simple things. Teaching is something that's a living, breathing thing, and you also have to react to like what you have in front of you. And some teachers will go in and will just, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. It's like, oh, hold on. You've got a clarinetist that can't even get over, can't even give it over the break. It's like, okay, how do we get over the break? Let's figure that one out real quick. So it's being malleable and teaching to the situation. And not everyone, the hard thing for a teacher to understand too is not everyone's going to be a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we can make them little rock stars, and we don't, and the other thing as teachers is we don't always understand what their life is like at home. And, kids have headspace, and so do adults. And sometimes that headspace is filled up with a bunch of other stuff. And, whatever, I'm just blabbing now because I think I forgot the question you asked, but.
No, this is great. I think, yeah.
A lot of it.
I think there are too many people that go in to do a job and don't realize that part of their job is, not necessarily raising kids, but showing them how to use the lessons we're teaching in everyday life.
Well, I think a lot of it is raising kids because there's a lot of parents that don't. It's like kids trying to raise kids. They don't know, and it's like, hey. It's guess what, you try teaching junior high school. Like there are certain countries in the world that the kids go out on a farm for 2 years and milk cows because in junior high school they've got things growing and hormones and whatever else, and it's like their brains shut off every few seconds. I mean, they get the zoomies and they start running around and hanging on door handles, and it's like, oh God. But you can also teach them. I can teach a junior high kid how to play Candide on the clarinet. That's but it's understanding all that. It's like, I think the parents are the ones that need to be out in the pastures milking the cows sometimes, and so I think, teaching is a huge responsibility. And I just, I hate when I see people gig it. I hate when I see people just, you know, they're just showing up for a paycheck, and it's like, really? I realize it doesn't pay that well, but it's, come on, who else is going to do this but you?
Right.
Yeah, it's so easy as a teacher. I think that you see so many of them lose sight of the impact that they have on the children. Even though to them it's just like another year, another group, to the kids it's like such a huge part of their day, their week, and their lives, even if it's just for that moment in that year.
Every child, well, not everyone, but most are social creatures.
Yep.
And you can get a lot out of a student by not being a jerk. And I've seen people teaching music that will berate their students. What was that movie? Oh,
Whiplash.
Yes. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. It was like, it just was not right, man. It's like, you don't sit there and start hitting kids. But at the same time too, it's like, you're in a recording studio. It's like, okay, don't stink up the joint. But and I'm not saying be easy on the students or cater to them, because trust me, kids will try to get away with anything and try to get as much literally get away with anything and not do their work. So you got to figure out how to engage their minds. But yeah, that movie was I saw it once and it was like, I think I'll go back and I'll watch The Hangover again.
Lighter mood. Honestly, the whole thing about Whiplash, I made it like 10 minutes in, and the drumming did not line up with like what you heard versus what you saw. I couldn't stand that. I've never seen Whiplash. I made it just a couple minutes in and got hurt by that.
Yeah. Thank you, editors.
Yeah.
For that one.
No, thank you, editors.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
All right. Yeah, seriously. All right, Hefe. So thinking about stepping away from the kids here a little bit and going towards like the programs itself, why is a strong front ensemble important to competitive groups in the pageantry arts? Like, why do the pits need to be solid in order for a group to be successful? What is like the importance of the pit?
I've always looked at the front ensemble as being the line of defense for the rest of the group. In most traditional situations, the front ensemble is at the front of the ensemble. And they're usually the instruments when the sprinklers come on in the stadium when they're not supposed to. They get their instruments trashed. But they're kind of the first line of defense for, they're the ambassadors to the audience. They're also the ambassadors to a lot of the judges. And it's our responsibility to make sure that no one else sounds bad. And that's a big thing about being a percussionist. That is a lot of being a percussionist is trying to make everyone else sound good. And that's a toughie, man. You get 8, 13, 12, 15. I mean, at Logan High School, I would have 18 to 20 kids in the pit. And I've always felt like it's your job as a percussionist, whether you're playing bolero or you're playing something by Hinastera on the marching field, that you try to make sure that everyone else sounds correct, even if they're not. And that's hard, because then you're having to teach the students how to be malleable with time, and and you're also working a lot with the drum major, who, and I've had ensembles that have, no, I've had front ensembles that have actually been on, at Etiwanda High School on a semi trailer at the back of the field, playing. Basically, we treated it as a rhythm section, and it was basically the band played to the front ensemble, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, how reverse.
It's like, cool, we're not trying to fix everyone else's problems. That was hip. That was actually a lot of fun. It was Robert W. Smith, I remember, came out and judged the state finals in California that year, and was like, and he and his wife at St. James High School in Montgomery, they redid everything at her school based upon his judging experience, seeing our group at Etiwanda with the pit at the back of the field instead of the front of the field, and you start treating that as that's the band, like on stage, and playing rock and roll or Pat Metheny or whatever else, or Yanni. That was awful. But, well, I mean, it was cool, but it was like, I will never look at 7/8 again the same way. And, but, when you're in the front of the ensemble, you are the ambassadors, and you better know how to play.
Yeah, there's like no hiding up there, is there? It's like visually and audibly, you're being judged like so easily, like you can't necessarily tell if a horn player is actually playing, but like if a front ensemble, you just like can't fake it.
No, you can't fake it. And, I kind of, there are times where I look at some of the visual stuff that some of the front ensembles do these days. I'm kind of like, really? That's like, you just turned this into a dance party, and I'm just kind of like, but you can't play. So let's get the playing thing down before we start doing all the, the cool visuals.
Yeah,
absolutely. What are some of the other things, talking about just like making groups sound better and whatnot? What are some of the common downfalls you see in today's front ensembles? Just thinking like mallet selection, orchestration, stuff like those things, stuff that aren't necessarily the kids are causing the issues, but maybe the instructors or directors of groups are causing some of those issues.
Well, it depends on what group it is and what kind of money they have. I mean, unfortunately, but there are programs that have just really poor mallets, in terms of implements, and it may be the wrong mallet for that, but it's what we got, see if you try to reframe that for me.
Okay. So in terms of, well, just let's expand on that. If that's where they're at with their mallet selection, they have like one set of mallets. Let's just say they only have a hard set of mallets,
Right.
Thinking in terms of long-term investment, because one of the nice things about front ensemble or keyboard playing, because it goes into concert band as well.
Yep.
So like, where would you first invest money, assuming that you have the instruments that you have? Like if you were to invest further into expanding upon either implements or secondary instruments,
oh boy,
I know, where would you start?
That's a hard question, man, because every program is different.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm taking that too personally. I don't know how to answer that exactly, to be honest with you. It's such an individualized situation that I've tried to make sure that, like you said, they've got quality instruments, ideally. They don't have to be quality. You can teach anybody to do anything on anything.
Right.
So I'd probably spend money on literature and instead of spending money, I would invest my time with my students. So, I mean, that's nothing but a stupid answer, I guess, but I don't know. That's such a personalized and individualized situational thing that I don't know that I have a great answer for that.
No, I mean, I never would have thought of it like that. My brain went to, investing in implements and getting kids to sound better through that. And I loved your answer of buying more literature and essentially teaching them to be better musicians so that they can make great music with what they got, which is, again, my brain didn't go there right away. And I don't know why it didn't.
Well, and that's no problem either. But I mean, I've taught in the ghetto, and guess what? We came out and won the state indoor drumline championships my first year there. So, and they never placed higher than 15th, and we came out and just basically it was like, hey, guess what? I only got two snare drummers, 2 tenor drummers, 4 basses, and a smoking pit. And, and we just killed everybody. And it's, so you can do pretty much anything with anything. You just have to think about it. And, how do you reach the students and all that? And we didn't have great implements at Roosevelt High School, at the Velt, we didn't have great instruments. I had trombone players playing xylophone, but it was kind of like everyone in the circuit was like, huh? What just happened? It's like, I was the only percussion instructor.
Oh, wow.
Ralph Hardiman came in at one point. Actually, no, it wasn't Ralph. It was Glenn Crosby who came in for a day. I brought him in for a Saturday rehearsal. But, these kids are worried about getting their heads blown off in a parking lot. I had a pipe bomb placed underneath my car. It had nothing to do with me, but it was gangland, but man, we had some great students.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my first time being a band director, man, at the Velt.
Part of me is like, man, we have to go over this pipe bomb situation. The other
buddy, I'm glad that the campus police, because we did have the school system, Fresno Unified, did have a police department. They found it underneath my car and knocked on the band room door. I was like, they're like, is that your car? I said, yeah. Well, there's a pipe bomb underneath it. I'm like, oh, okay. They said, we're bringing in the bomb squad and we'll get rid of it for you. Thank you. Thank you very much for not letting me die. But it was some of the best students I've ever taught in my life. Some of the greatest people. I had a student, Naz Vartanian. Do you want to know who his uncle is?
Who?
Uncle Isak. Who am I talking about?
I don't know.
Isak Perlman.
Now, who's that?
The world's best violinist.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Uncle Isak. His nephew was one of my students.
That's crazy. Was he an amazing musician by blood?
Naz, no. But I got him to play tenor drums well enough to win the state marching band or the state indoor drumline championship. So,
Got him on his way. That's funny. Hey, so if we're in kind of like a weird time in the world right now where we're not really allowed to like rehearse as an ensemble, and I know like for my school district, as they're looking at going back into the fall, they expect everything to be totally different. They're talking about like um, classes only 2 days a week for kids. Like teachers work every day, but they only see their students like on an individual basis, like 2 days out of the week or something like that. We don't know if marching band's going to be back. The choral world is just like downright depressing. They're like so worried about contagion. Like they don't know if they'll get
Right.
the next year or so. So like how can, current pit members or pit hopefuls, people that want to audition whenever the world resumes normal, if that ever happens, like what words do you have for them? Like how can they grow at this time?
Opportunity.
Okay.
This is a chance, and I don't care if you just bust out a pillow and start doing permutations, and and for pit people, yeah, work on your drumming skills too, and it's an opportunity to learn, and and they need to be honest with themselves too. They may not have an instrument in front of them. They may not be able to sit there and go dugga 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 and go through arpeggios, but they can certainly work on, 1 4 2 3, 1 4 2 3, or 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and work on those skills. If they're playing percussion in the front ensemble, then listen to a great country song and play some parts with it. Start lifting stuff. Start lifting music. Figure out, oh, what is the drummer doing? Or that's only going to enhance their ability to hear when they're back with the ensemble at some point, whatever their role is going to be. Start lifting. I don't know. Listen to classical music and start lifting Paganini string parts. Develop your ears.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great answer. What other than just like pillow playing, or like you further into that, like how can pit members develop their ears? Say they're doing runs, vertical alignment. Is there anything they can do for that at home? Do you have anything a little bit more specific? And if not, that's cool too.
Man, turn the stereo up loud behind you and play along with it. I mean, it's for me, right? It's kind of like just listen to music. We had this challenge on Facebook of the 10-day challenge or whatever, 7-day challenge of your favorite albums, and you didn't have to give a reason why they were your favorite albums. I did 15 of them. It's like I couldn't stop. It was like stuff that was really influential, and it went everything from Sting to Bernstein to Luciano Berio. Something Ralph Hardiman really, I wouldn't say he preached it to me, but I was at his house one time when I was playing in Santa Clara. I spent the night over there, and I was like, Ralph, where do you get your ideas for music and the way you write? He said, and he pointed over, this is back in the day when we all had vinyl LPs and stuff, even though CDs were still out, he was still listening to vinyl. And he just pointed over to this record rack that had like 400 albums in it. And he said, I listen to music. I just listen. That's a big thing, man, is listening, because it then becomes ingrained upon you. And I keep staring at the drum heads you have over on your wall there. So sorry. Because I know those all have signatures on them of someone.
They sure do. They sure do.
And a rim and a guitar. That's nice.
The guitar has 4 strings on it. It's broken. So don't. Yeah, it's just clear only decoration.
Yeah, and I think is that a nipple gong back there in the back? Tibetan gong.
It's like way back there in the frame.
Yeah.
That's crazy story about that. Actually, I was at BOA. Is it like I think a regional, and a kid. I was like, this kid had a chipped cymbal on his marimba, and it was like rattling a lot. And this was the day of the show, so I broke off that chip of that cymbal, and I was like, I know you do this. Like they'll do that spinny game where they like spin the cymbal and then try to catch it. I was like, don't touch the cymbal. The cymbal is off limits. You play the cymbal, that is it. And sure enough, we're like waiting, down in the Colts Stadium for to go on the field. What's he doing? He's playing with the cymbal, catches it, cuts the wet finger. I still think there's like still a blood stain down in the alleyway, but stadium of this, and he like played trombone during concert band, and he's just like bleeding out, couldn't play the show, ended up going to the emergency room and he was like getting lightheaded. He was like all nervous and giggly. Poor kid. He was like one really good marimba player, and then like sure enough, he's just like being goofy ruins the last show of his career. Anyway, that's that cymbal. Still some blood stains on it. The kids framed it for me, and
oh, man. So, okay, let's talk. Okay, we're going to turn the tables here. We're going to talk about Lucas Oil Stadium.
Okay.
So, when you were in the Madison Scouts, we had DCI finals, and it kind of stunk that we were always, like, for several years we were back in the same venue for every finals, because it was kind of cool doing finals in different places. At the same time too, it was also consistent, except for when the San Francisco 49ers were coming in to play football the next day.
Okay. For
a preseason game. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that at all.
No, we're trying to go down a ramp, and they're trying to load in all the team's equipment.
Oh my God.
And it was like, no, you were in the group. You were in Madison.
I was probably more focused on like, performing or whatever, but like, yeah, I don't remember that. That's crazy.
Oh no, I was like, I was just a lowly sound guy, but I was like fighting for you guys. It's like, no, we have to go down this ramp, and I don't care if you have to pull in these helmets and stuff, but your game's not till tomorrow. We have DCI finals tonight, Well,
yeah, that would throw a monkey wrench in the whole machine. That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was funny. But and you've played in Dayton, right? You've done the Dayton Arena.
Yeah.
Talk about a brutal ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what though? Honestly, like my 08 year, Ryan, did you march in 08?
I did.
Yeah. So like that, was it the Bloomington, that final stadium?
Yeah.
I like played rack, and this rack was taller than I was, and it's made out of like, pipes this, like less than an inch thick. And trying to push that up the hill going outside of that stadium was probably the roughest thing that I can remember. Like,
well, and I'll tell you what, I was at that finals because I lived in Bloomington at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't teaching any groups that year. Well, I had done some work for Santa Clara on the backside, but yeah, it's like that ramp going into IU is well, first of all, I mean, we had a regional there when I was teaching Blue Devils. This is like 93 or 94. We lost an accessory rack on wheels. The equipment trailer turned over going down that ramp while the golf cart was skidding down the ramp. And it was like, oh God. Like, but it was also, it's also a great venue, Yeah. And who was it? It was Phantom that won that year, I think, right?
Great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was sweet. Being able to see that show live. It was like, and it was my first drum corps year. So that was just blew my mind out of the water. That was crazy.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I always yelled, "I am Stupidicus," instead of "I am Spartacus," but You know, it was man, that horn line unloaded, and it was like, whoa, whoa, man, that's you guys got some hosses in there. So
Yeah. So one of the things I remember about that year, well, two things from that year, because I'm Arch Glassman, was I remember being in a lot at finals. We're loading up our trailer, and you can hear the stadium kind of off in the distance.
yeah,
But Phantom gets to that "I am Spartacus," and you just hear everybody yell. And at that point, we're out in we're out by the trailers going, "Oh, well, they just won."
Yeah.
dude, that happened with the Madison Scouts when I was in Santa Clara, in 1988, and I can remember. Well, okay. The other funny thing about the 2008 thing with Phantom Regiment was the toilet paper being thrown on the field, because no one knew about that tradition of tomb and throwing toilet paper at the core from the seats. So during their victory gig or whatever, everyone's throwing rolls of toilet paper on the field, and I don't know. It's just some tradition. But oh, where was I going? Sorry, I just got sidetracked. We were talking about.
You're good. You were mentioning about how you were in the lot for
At Kansas City. Oh no, wait, which lot?
You said for finals you were there with and how Madison did something similar to what
Oh no, okay, yeah. So this is finals '88. And Ralph Hardemeyer and I are sitting there in the parking lot. Like when Madison, it was like Blue Devils were in third. So we looked to our right. There's I guess our left was the Blue Devils. No, we looked to our right. The Blue Devils were there. And we're like, oh, we won. No one considered the Madison Scouts. I looked to the left, and then I looked at my friend Gumby in the pit. I was like, oh no. And then, so we're out in the parking lot, man, and they start playing Malagueña. And Ralph Hardiman looks at me and he just says, "That's pretty cool, isn't it?" I was like, yep. That's, and I'd watched them crash and burn on the field 2 weeks before at a regional, but it was like, oh, they lit up that place. And I was like, Dad, gummit. And they stunk up the place for the first half of their show, but they came out and played Malagueña, and it was, yeah, okay, got it.
Showstopper. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, you've got a ton of sweet stories. What so, and let's transition that, because we've been talking a lot of fun ensemble stuff, but I feel like that's only a percentage of your career. Meanwhile, you've done a lot of things outside of just front ensemble, and I feel like the James Mason Entertainment Group did some things that like any drum corps lifer would just absolutely dream of, where you're like, you age right out of drum corps, right out of the WGI, and then there's this tour that you can join and just continue your drum corps career past your age out. Talking about like blast or mix here, what can you tell us about your experience being able to do that?
Well, it's been fabulous. And quite honestly, yeah, there's been a lot of people who have come from drum corps that are, have gone through the groups, the different casts, as we call them. But we've had people who haven't done drum corps that have come through, like the lead trumpet player for the President's Own.
Okay.
She never did drum corps, but she was a fabulous player. So it's what a great experience, man. It's like, and to be able to, and for people who have done drum corps, done marching band, what a cool experience to be able to go get paid for it.
Yes.
But the standards are also very high, because you're getting paid for it. And guess what? You have people who have butts in their seats that are paying for it. and you have producers that are paying for the people running sound and lighting and all of that. It's so you can't go in and stink up the joint. There's that side of it too. But man, how much fun and how many great people have I worked with is, just, I will never dismiss, the work I've done with them in terms of those experiences. Just fabulous.
Yeah, that's super cool. It really seems like a dream gig, honestly. What you're talking to like some front ensemble age outs, maybe seniors in high school, and they're about to transition either to college life or to real world music industry. What are some things that you would recommend that they take with them? What are some things that you can learn in the front ensemble in the pit that will apply to you for the rest of your life?
Ears.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one. Ears and knowing how to make everyone else sound good. Because if you're going to be an audio engineer, half of your life is going to be correcting stuff, especially if you're doing live sound. And in the studio too, man. You go back and go into post-production, you are correcting probably a lot of other people's messes. And I don't care how good they are, there's always going to be an issue. And being able to have critical thinking skills, being able to identify things. And I think that's probably one of the best things about being in a front ensemble is you have to be able to react to stuff. If all of a sudden the entire ensemble is an eighth note behind, but they're wrong, guess what? Don't make them look wrong.
Yeah.
It's the Blue Devils in 2000. I had to add like a Zilbel roll at the end of one of the pieces because it was the Accelerando in 2000. Well, the core couldn't keep up with us, so I ended up having to put in a Zilbel roll to try to make up for the fact they were going to be eighth note behind us when they came in with the chord. Like, just okay, here we go. We're adding an extra eighth note in here. Dang!
Oh man, it's like if you can't make it right, at least make it sound right, I guess.
Well, and I think that's a really important skill. I think that's for any musician, really. If you're playing chamber music, that's a really intimate thing. It's whether it's 2, 3, 15 people, you're playing L'Histoire de Soldat, by Stravinsky. You better be able to communicate with people or make them sound correct. And I think as a percussionist in particular, that is a huge, huge thing to be aware of, man. It's like, check your ego at the door. Keep your ego inside, of course. And you deserve to have an ego, but don't be a jerk. And, if someone blows it, my senior recital, I was playing a Bach concertina for flute on marimba, and the piano player turned 2 pages and skipped 2 pages ahead. Guess what? That was basically on stage naked, emperor's new clothes. All right, how do I make her sound good? Because I have no idea where she is right now in the music. So it's like I'm sitting there like improvising in C major. I'm like, oh, okay, there we are. Gotcha. That was rough.
Yeah, that's a scary situation to be in. That was your senior recital?
It may have been my junior recital.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my junior recital, I think. But whatever. That was, I learned a lot in that moment of, it was like quick deer in the headlights. Crap, what do I do? And then it was like, all right, I got to make her sound correct so I don't look like a jerk.
Yeah. Okay. Man, how difficult. So one of my favorite days of Scout Summers was where, morning block, and then off in the distance we can hear that the sound system's being fired up because we can hear Prince coming through the trees. And
Sorry.
don't apologize. I was like never into Prince until those bright summer days where the sound system was getting warmed up for the tour. So like I've obviously Prince was like somebody that I remember you describing, like the sounds are really old, but they're still, even by today's standards, his sounds are really good.
Yeah.
So like talking about developing your ear, what are, obviously like being able to find musicians or productions like Prince, what are some other things that you would recommend to develop a producer's ear, to develop a more mature musician's ear?
Listen.
Just to anything?
Anything. And quite honestly, if you want to get into production, I would be listening to a lot of country music.
Really?
Stuff coming out of Nashville is some of the best produced, and it always has been. That's something Dave Glide taught me when I was working with him at the Blue Devils as well as Clovis West. It's like, listen to some country music, man. It's there is some great production going on with that. But listen to everything, Prince. I can go on a Prince vibe all day long. To today, I mean, his music is still current in a lot of respects, and having eaten nachos with him in the Minneapolis airport didn't suck either. But but that's a whole nother story. But it was, and Morris Day and the Time and that band and Sheila E. being involved with all that stuff and whatever. It was just, the music was so clean but so funky. And but just listen to stuff. Listen to country, listen to hip hop. I mean, don't poo-poo any genre of music. Go listen to something on Deutsche Grammophon. Listen to the Vienna Philharmonic, and then go listen to some Stevie Ray Vaughan, or go listen to some Snoop Dogg, whatever. It's just, that's the best thing a young musician can do. And by the way, even if you're not into the music, start lifting bass lines and developing your ear training skills, because it's, you start, go listen to Pachelbel's Canon 165-432. It's like, okay, there's your chord progressions, man. Start figuring that stuff out, because then you can go in, if you have to be a musician in a studio, they don't have time to pay you money to like suck. And lots of times you go in a recording studio and you'll get your music as a chord chart on a napkin. There you go.
Oh gosh.
That's what a lot of it is. And you better be able to, read chord charts. You better understand the Nashville numbering system, which is a combination of figured bass as well as, jazz chord charts. But a lot of music, in a lot of studios is made that way, where it's just, studio musicians come in and they leave. And there you go. And then the band that you're going to see on stage goes and learns the music because they didn't actually record it. That's a little dirty little secret in the industry. There's a lot of stuff you hear on the radio. That band did not record it. It was studio musicians who came in because it was a lot cheaper and they were a lot better. And then the band learns the charts from what was recorded. Then they go on the road.
And okay.
I don't think I'm breaking a non-disclosure agreement when I say that, but
yeah, not at all. All right, so back. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I have a question. When you talk about listening, do you have guidelines of like, or things that you specifically listen for, or thinking about a student that's like really wants to develop their ear. They're like, what am I listening to? Like I had a professor in college that was like, same as you, listen to everything. He's like, because he always asked us, what is good? You know, and his answer was, I don't know. He's like, I know what I like and I know what I don't like, but I don't know. Everyone's definition of good is different. So going kind of along those lines, is there anything that you specifically encourage students to start to listen for in terms of, obviously the baseline is probably one of the easier ones, but like production value, what makes things sound the way they do?
That's a tough question, buddy. Because I mean, some of that's subjective also, right?
Right.
And I would say that is probably maybe one of the most important things you can teach your students is to be objective, but also realizing in the arts, it's also subjective. You know, I mean, it's we have our preferences, we have our choices and stuff, you know, and someone who plays clarinet may want to listen to Candide all day and not, you know, not listen to AC/DC. Well, you know, that is a tough question, buddy. I kind of hate you for asking it. Because I mean, there's so many things, you know, but that's the beautiful thing about the arts too, right? There is so much out there, and you know, stuff I've written. Like I remember, like when I was writing for Blast, for instance, and we were doing a piece called The Battery Battle, and what Tom Hannum didn't tell me, because I was, you know, just a guy, I was doing some of the synthesizer programming. I was writing like 3 songs in the show, and then all of a sudden Tom Hannum, I show up to a rehearsal for Blast, and it says, "Oh, by the way, we're doing this thing called The Battery Battle. We need a track for it." I'm like, what? So I spent two days in a hotel room stressing a lot, and basically I had to record everything. I was on a Kurzweil 2600 or 2500 synthesizer, which I'd never programmed on one before. So I'm like reading manuals and you know, trying to figure that out and sequence the entire thing. And I went in the next day and lugging this, like, you know, the Kurzweil 2500 is not a light synthesizer. It's very heavy because it's got weighted keys. It's like, it's 88 keys. Crap. I'm like lugging it back into Star Hall, and you know, I plug it into the sound system, and I hit play, and Tom Ham looks at me and goes, "You are one sick puppy," but he says, "That is great." I was like, yeah, well, I felt like a sick puppy writing it, because it was like, he's like, "That's Frank Zappa on steroids." I'm like, well, but you know, whatever. It's I've completely gone off the scale here in terms of what the topic was, but
no, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important thing about being a musician too, is realizing that, you know, you have to be malleable, and there are, you know, if you're lucky, you might find yourself in situations that are a little uncomfortable, and what are you going to do? You know, you can either be good or not be good. It's your choice. And sometimes being good means you may have a heart attack, but you try and figure it out, you know? And especially if you're teaching, do our students not deserve that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're teaching, your students deserve, you know, everything you have. And I'm sorry if you're not getting paid what you should be getting paid, because you're not. But, you know, integrity, and your name's on it. Your name is on it. Don't ever forget that. Your name is on it.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a great point. Like I had a former teacher always say, look, if I'm not giving you my best, how can I ask you to give me your best? You know, and one of the things that he impressed upon me was like just not sitting down in rehearsal, because kids read your energy. So like I that's one thing. I teach long drum corps days just like we've all done and whatnot. And sometimes you just want to sit down for a second, but as soon as those kids read you relaxing, man, it's over. You know, I think you bring up a great point of just giving our kids everything, regardless of what level they're at.
Well, because I can guarantee you the first thing they're going to do is they're going to see that as an excuse for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the same time too, you also have to like not kill yourself in the process, right. You know, and you have to impress that upon your students, you know, as well. But no, kids, teenagers will look for opportunities as well. It's college students will too, man. It's like, you know, it's, you know, you sit there, you have got to remember as a teacher, you know, a lot of teachers are, you know, do as I say, not as I do. It's like, no, that ain't it, man. The kids, whether they're your own children, your stepchildren, or your students, they see straight through that. And so does your dog, if you have a dog. they see straight through it. It's like, well, Hefe's laying on the couch, so I'm going to lay on the couch. Like, no, you're supposed to be doing, you know, you're supposed to be doing your homework, but you're laying on the couch. All right. Fair enough.
You definitely have to watch those double standards as a teacher. And I think like, I don't know about you, but I've taught at some groups, some ensembles where like I'm an elementary teacher during the day, and even my elementary kids can get hip to things like that. Like they will catch those things, and they are the least shy about like pointing things like that out. It's funny, you know, but it's funny and honest, but also very, very true, very real.
But you know, it's funny too, and you can feel free to edit this out since this is what you're going to be doing with this. But I have a friend of mine. She is recently retired, but was an elementary school teacher, someone I went to high school with, and I have it sitting. It's in my office on the bulletin board. But she had a student that the assignment was to say, you know, what's your favorite thing to watch on TV? You know, just trying to get the kids, you know, communicating and stuff. And it's on the paper, you know, it has like the dots in the middle, like, you know, this is how you make cursive little A's and big A's and stuff like that, you know. And it says, and he meant basketball, but he didn't know how to spell it, so it was and it was like that was awesome, man. You know, elementary kids, you know, that's what he heard when he heard, you know, and plus he was probably hearing cuss words at his home and stuff and whatever else with parents, and it's like, yeah, don't cuss in front of the kids, please. But you know, I can talk like a sailor, but I try not to do it in a professional or in a parental sense. And, you know, but it was just hilarious.
Yeah, I was working as a paraprofessional for 2 years, and that involved like helping kids with their reading, their writing, their math, and everything in their homeroom classroom. And one thing that really stuck out to me is that those mistakes happen constantly, and you just have to be on the lookout for them because they're so funny. I remember this girl doing this writing assignment and it was like, please give the pencil to Angel. Totally misspelled pencil.
Oh, no. Don't go there. No. I know what you're going to say. Don't say it.
And yeah, no, that is just a common thing there.
Yeah, I think we've all been teaching too long because
no longer an angel.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Okay, so something that we hashed over earlier, and I really wanted to go back to is airport nachos, Prince. Can you talk about this?
I can. I do not have a non-disclosure agreement. So,
How did you find yourself at the airport with Prince eating nachos?
well, I was I was going out to the Santa Clara Vanguard to work with the front ensemble and do their audio and stuff, working with Brian Mason. And so I was at the Minneapolis airport, and I love Chili's. I love their nachos. So I was actually over in Concourse G, but I knew there was a Chili's. Let me reverse that. I was in Concourse B, but there was a Chili's in Concourse G, which is the international concourse. So I knew there was a Chili's there. So I went over there, and there's kind of a semicircle of guys in suits around someone sitting at the bar. So I kind of sat over, there was like a couple seats left on the far right of that group. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. It's just like a senator or some sort of, legislator or something. And then I hear, he looks cool, let him come in. And so one of the, basically, these bodyguards or whatever, one of the guys steps back and says, yo, get over here. All of a sudden I realized, oh, these are all like, this is all security. And this is, it's the short purple guy. Holy crap, And we just sat there and we ate nachos and we talked music and, tried, I was geeking on the inside real hard. And, but he was super hip, and he invited me out to Paisley Park and it was like, I have to go teach drum corps. and the funny thing is he actually knew what drum corps was. He was like, well, where are you going? I said, I'm going out to California, out to the Bay Area. He goes, you doing Santa Clara? Or you doing Blue Devils?
No way.
I was like, what? Like, what is going on right now? That was surreal, and he really is as short as everyone says he is. And, I first met him when he did he opened his Purple Rain tour here in Las Cruces, where I teach currently, at the Pan Am Center. And I delivered pizzas to him.
Okay.
Being a college student and working at Domino's Pizza is not a bad thing, man. I've delivered pizzas to a lot of famous people. And, but, yeah, just a super hip guy and freak player. That dude he could play anything, any instrument. It didn't matter. And he knew how to put on a show, but I think he was a lot more level-headed than people thought he was. The dude, he still had 10 years of unreleased songs that had already been in the studio, mixed, edited in a vault. But he got into a feud with Sony Records. And that's when he changed his name to, well, it was first the symbol. No, I guess it was the artist first. And then it was the artist formerly known as Prince. And then it was the artist. And then it was the symbol. And, but he had this stuff all worked out. He was trying to get out of contracts with Sony Records. And he was really a nice guy.
Awesome. That's hysterical. I remember seeing John Blackwell Jr. at PASIC one year, and he just like did a really solid Prince impression, and like it he made him sound quite a bit more edgy, and more like a manager, like a rock star. But yeah, how cool, how awesome. I guess teaching front ensembles and drum corps will bring you. It's crazy to think the places that you'll go, honestly.
Okay, you're about to write a Dr. Seuss book right now, so
I may have quoted something. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, the things you'll see. Yeah, you should try being in the same hotel as Cirque du Soleil and watching run down the hallway. So that's Hey, I was teaching drum corps in Tokyo, and it happened. And I was like, wow, you guys are freaks.
Wow. Okay. That's next level. That is next level. All right. So you've done a lot of things already, music world. If you had a dream gig now, if you could do your dream gig and retirement doesn't count, what would it be?
Really, you took retirement off the table, huh?
Yep.
I don't know, probably teaching percussion on a beach.
Okay. So like, what is it?
So that's close to retirement. I'm not that old, dude. But yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many good things out there, and that's something I'm trying to impress upon, my students that I have currently, both on my crew that works for me at the recital hall, but also the students I have in my music technology coursework. Is there are so many opportunities in the music industry. You can be on the concert stage. You could be a truck driver. You could drive fly in a plane. You could be in the food. You could be a chef and still be in the music industry. There's so many things. And for me right now, it's kind of like, I don't know. I come from that concert stage. But over the years I've developed a lot of skills towards audio. So I like combining those things, and making sure people that walk on my stage feel comfortable and they feel like things are going to go correct. And that's a big one for me. I love producing. I really love producing, and I love editing and mixing. And you kind of get to be the band director in charge when you start doing that stuff, because hey, you can put it on tape, I can fix it. So it's but I also love live sound too, and I love writing music.
You're pretty open to a dream gig here.
Yeah, I mean,
lots of opportunities.
Well, who knows, man? It's I think there's lots of opportunities right now. Things are a little strange.
Yeah.
So, but opportunity does not always knock on the window or knock on the door. Sometimes you have to open your door and look outside, standing right there. So, that's an important thing in the music industry, is to realize that you may have to reimagine some things. But, don't give up your passion, and don't give up on students. Hang in there.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
If you, and want to be respectful of your time here too, since we've been going here for a while, and we again really truly appreciate you joining us. This has been fantastic. What we were talking on the phone the other day, and you mentioned that Shania Twain. You mentioned like her coming in to talk to your studio class, or how you said that you've worked with her before. When did you two cross paths?
That was 1999. It was when I was working with the Blue Devils, and she was starting a tour, and the first concerts were going to happen at the Concord Pavilion, which was a venue that we typically would do spring concerts with the Blue Devils, with us in Santa Clara and like the Mandarin. We would do like these joint, standstill concerts in the spring before the season started for drum corps. And she wanted tenor drummers, people that could play quads. And it was like, so her manager called Pete Emmons at the Blue Devils and said, hey, blah, blah, blah. And it was actually going into Memorial Day, and we had Memorial Day camp, but Pete was like, sure, we can provide you tenor drummers. And then he's like telling me and Scott Johnson, the tenor drummers are going to be like a day late to Memorial Day camp because they're performing with Shania Twain. So I ended up on stage with these quad players, these tenor drummers. And what I didn't know was her keyboard player was someone I had toured with in 1983. It was his first gig with her, this guy named Hardy Hemphill. It was just super cool. So anyway, in trying to kind of figure stuff out with the classes and looking for opportunity to kind of bring people in to talk and stuff with my students from the music industry, unfortunately, her schedule's really messed up right now because she's supposed to be in Vegas right now, teching her show and then opening up at the MGM Grand. That just went, so whatever. But I reached out to her about the class and she's like, I'm not available at the time of your class. But I can't slam my students, but that's just how we met, and you develop relationships and you're not a jerk, and fun stuff. I told my students, man, it would be cool to have her come in, wouldn't it? And because she's done an amazing job in her career when I first met her, basically she was doing 3 different shows at the same time. She would do a Euro kind of club show. She would do a country show, and she would do a pop show. All the same music, but with different arrangements, depending on what venue she was going into and what market she was going into. It was brilliant. It was like, dang. Plus she could put her music in any market, whether it be pop or country or, in the club market. It was a brilliant strategy.
Yeah, that's well thought out. That's super great. That's really crazy. What so you've said a lot of these different core values and things over the course of this interview, and I know when we were on the phone the other day, you said several to me. If you were talking to directly to our audience, like growing members, growing musicians, what would be some like very short but like valuable things that you would leave them with? Like you said to me, like, don't lie, don't be a jerk, don't suck. What else?
That's pretty much it, man. It's be great at what you do, or be as good as you can be at what you do. Be honest about it, and so many people think they're good and they're not. It's big fish, small pond, so be honest about it, but do a great job. Don't be a jerk. Celebrate at home, do the happy dance at home, and don't be a jerk. I'm a lucky boy. I've won a lot of DCI rings and WGI trophies and BOA stuff and Tonys, Emmys, whatever, all that. But be a decent human being, and don't be a jerk, period. Unfortunately, you see a lot of young music educators who all of a sudden think that they are really, really good. Well, they're potentially really good. But you don't necessarily come out of college and be the great next educator of the world. You're not the next Frederick Fennell. It's like I could think of a lot of instances of seeing that happen, and it's like, no, man, it's you got to have ethics, and you got to check yourself at the door when you walk in, and realize that it's okay to tell yourself that you suck. And then what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And you've got to find your deficits and fix those things. But you can't blow yourself up in your head too, put a gun in your mouth and shoot yourself because you think you're terrible. It's a balance of stuff. And that's a hard thing about being an educator, is being honest but also, just trying to balance stuff out. That's another thing too, man. It's like, I had to learn this at one point. If you're a band director or you're teaching at a university, you can end up spending 20 hours a day working. Easy. And you need to be able to step away and give yourself a little room. It's great that you can immerse yourself and you immerse yourself in your students and all that, but at the same time, you need to be able to step away a little bit and breathe for a moment. I think that's important for all of us and all of our jobs, but you see it particularly in music, that, and I still don't know what's going on with your hair there, but, but oh, there you go. You fixed it ish. But no, but I mean, but that's a thing, man. You see it, especially in young educators, like they live, breathe, sleep. Everything is their job. And it's like, you watch them destroy marriages, you watch them destroy kids, you watch them destroy themselves. And you kind of have to figure out, a little bit of space for yourself as an educator.
Just to prevent burnout and
well, it's not just burnout, it's like suicidal tendencies. I mean, when you go to bed and you wake up in the middle of the night and you are actually dreaming parts that you're writing, you stop. You need to stop for a few minutes, because it's when you're dreaming what you're doing every night, that means that your brain's not shutting off at any point. And although I've written some good music in my sleep, but that's, man, you got to give yourself some space sometimes too.
I just want to say thank you, Jeff. Like, this has been pretty awesome, just to hear some of the stories and some of your insights to things. It's definitely been a great experience talking to you.
Yes.
Well, same to you, sir, and same to you, Rob. Not to be cliched, but music's the universal language, man. It is, if I can go over to Japan and teach, or go to Korea and teach, or go to Germany and teach, or whatever, and you're able to be effective or whatever, or you're doing stuff in the technology side of things, it's, the arts is a wonderful place, and we wouldn't be human without the arts. Trust me. It is I don't care if it's music, or if it's theater, or if it's poetry, or whatever, painting, but the arts are what make us human. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks so much. All right. As always on our podcast, we're going to tell you guys as listeners to reach out to us. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you thought. Hefe had a lot of great things. Let us know if you have anything similar. We want to hear your thoughts as well, as this is just a huge collective. I guess that's it for this time. We'll see you guys next time
On the Frontier.